Ever wondered what makes happiness click in your brain? Today, we're plunging into the neuro wonderland with a spotlight on dopamine. In this video, what is dopamine? We're demystifying the science behind this neurotransmitter. We'll break down dopamine's definition, functions, and its fascinating role in everything from mood to motivation. Expect some mind-blowing facts. And here's the deal. Hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss out on our upcoming videos. Ready to uncover the secrets of your brain's joy molecule? Let's roll. Segment 1. Definition of dopamine. All right, let's start with the basics. What exactly is this dopamine everyone talks about? Well, think of it as the brain's little messenger delivering notes between nerve cells. Picture it as the DJ of your brain party, setting the mood and making sure everyone's in sync. Now, chemically speaking, dopamine belongs to a cool gang called neurotransmitters, which are like text messages sent between your brain cells. Imagine you have a brain full of roads, and dopamine is the traffic manager directing the flow. It's a crucial part of the brain communication network. Now, don't let the sciencey terms scare you off. Dopamine is just doing its job, making sure everyone in your brain community is on the same page. And if we dive a bit deeper, dopamine is like a superhero with a secret identity, part of the catecholamine family. But don't worry, you don't need a degree in chemistry to get this. Just know it's a special chemical that helps keep your brain messages on point. So, in a nutshell, dopamine is your brain's communication maestro, ensuring the party inside your head stays lively and connected. Segment 2. Functions of dopamine. Let's move into the bustling world of dopamine and what this neurotransmitter is really up to inside our brains. Picture dopamine as your brain's motivational speaker, the one pumping you up for life's grand performance. It's not just any neurotransmitter, it's the maestro orchestrating the symphony of your brain's responses. So why does dopamine hold such a prestigious role? Well, it's the chief architect behind our pleasure and reward systems. When you accomplish a task, whether it's acing a project or reaching a personal goal, dopamine steps into the spotlight, showering your brain with a euphoric celebration. It's like winning a gold medal in your own mental Olympics. Now, let's meet another character in our dopamine tale. Let's call them Mojo. Mojo is the mood moderator, influenced heavily by dopamine's directives. When dopamine flows freely, Mojo throws a lively fiesta, filling your emotional space with positivity. But when dopamine takes a siesta, Mojo might steer towards a more subdued atmosphere. Consider dopamine as the emotional architect, crafting the highs and lows that color your everyday experiences. It's not just a passive participant, it's the driving force behind the emotional roller coaster we call life. So whether you're dancing in the rain or pondering life's mysteries, remember, it's dopamine conducting the emotional orchestra in your incredible brain. Segment 3. Dopamine synthesis and release. All right, let's move into the brain's kitchen and see how dopamine is cooked up. Picture it like a delicious recipe. The main ingredient here is tyrosine, an amino acid hanging out in your brain. Tyrosine gets a little makeover thanks to the brain's magic touch and turns into our star, dopamine. Now, here comes the exciting part, the release. Once dopamine is all dressed up and ready to party, it's released into the synaptic space. Think of this space as the VIP area where nerve cells exchange messages. Dopamine struts in like a rock star, doing its thing, making connections and spreading good vibes. But hold on, the party doesn't last forever. Dopamine, being the responsible guest, doesn't overstay its welcome. It goes through a root-take process where it's taken back up by the cells that threw the party. It's like cleaning up after a wild celebration. The brain wants to keep things tidy and efficient. So dopamine starts with a simple ingredient, gets a brain makeover, rocks the party in the synaptic space, and then gracefully bows out to keep the brain's balance intact. It's the chemical dance that keeps our brain grooving and moving. Remember, guys, this process is happening all the time in your amazing brain, a constant rhythm of creation, release, and cleanup, ensuring that your dopamine levels are in perfect harmony. Segment 4. Dopamine receptors. Let's zoom into the world of dopamine receivers, the receptors. Picture these receptors as the eager listeners in your brain, stationed strategically to catch every word of the dopamine message. Now, we've got a variety pack here. Think D1, D2, and their pals. Imagine D1 as the cool receptors chilling in the cortex, dealing with cognitive functions and decision-making. They're like the brain's wise counselors, ensuring everything runs smoothly up there. On the other side, say hello to D2. They're the ones more into emotions and limbic system action. They're like the emotional touchpoints, making sure you feel all the feels. These receptors, scattered throughout the brain, aren't just passive listeners. They have jobs to do. When dopamine comes knocking, D1 and D2 receptors each have their specific roles. It's a bit like a well-coordinated dance, D1 doing a tango with cognitive functions, while D2 waltzes with emotions. Now, here's the cool part. These receptors aren't just hanging out randomly. They've got prime locations, ensuring that the dopamine signals reach the right places. It's like a well-organized party, with each receptor having its own VIP section. So, next time you hear about dopamine receptors, think of them as the brain's dedicated listeners, making sure the dopamine show goes on without a hitch. They're the unsung heroes in our brain's blockbuster production, ensuring the messages are heard loud and clear. Segment 5. Dopamine pathways. Alright, now let's move to brain's highway system, the dopamine pathways. Think of these pathways as the intricate roads and express lanes of your brain, each with its own destination. First up, we've got the mesolimbic pathway. Picture it like the scenic route, taking you through the beautiful landscapes of pleasure and reward. This pathway is all about those feel-good moments, like when you accomplish a goal or indulge in something delightful. Now let's hit the mesocortical pathway, the brain's on-ramp to cognition and decision-making. It's like the brain's command center, influencing how we think, plan, and make decisions. These pathways aren't just dull neurological maps. They shape how we experience the world and react to different situations. Imagine dopamine as the traffic controller, managing the flow of information on these pathways. It decides when to speed things up for those euphoric moments and when to slow down for careful consideration. So, in a nutshell, these pathways are the routes where dopamine orchestrates the symphony of our behaviors and cognitive functions. But of course, like any highway, these pathways can have traffic jams, disruptions that affect our emotions and decision-making. Understanding this intricate network helps us grasp the complexity of how dopamine shapes our responses and perceptions. Conclusion for Part 1. We've covered a lot today, haven't we? But hold on. This is just the tip of the dopamine iceberg. There's so much more to explore, from its impact on mental health to its role in addiction. So don't go anywhere. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and get ready for Part 2, where the dopamine adventure continues. Stay curious.